Hi, Muchísimo Eugene. Sorry about that first half. I have to dump some material on my phone. Obviously, it maxed out. So I'm going to continue this video with the shadow work. The shadow work is very important. You guys got to understand this. Not only just being awakened from narcissistic abuse, the education of who they are and how they move. That's very important as well. But you have to take a big amount of time to do that shadow integration and that individualization, which is to go into solitude. Isolation does not mean you're, and the isolation is important to understand. There's two types of isolation. There's isolation because you can't stand other people, you just don't want to be around them, and different things like that, which is going to be torturous for you. This isolation must be a hunger from within in order to shut off all the distractions, in order to try to elevate your inner vibrations, whereas you can do this shadow work to see those things and just to deal with those things in your life that, as I said before, were masked and put on back burners, and sometimes put in a chest of forgetfulness. And so those things are what we actually are attracted to when we meet a narcissist. All of those traumas that we've experienced throughout our life, because understand, as an empath, as a child, you were the Band-Aid on all the wounds of the family. You were pretty much that person. You had to be, the healer. You had to be the one to hold up this persona on this certain type of mindset in order, because you'll see this in a lot of families where a young child is almost behaving as though they're the mother or the father. They're having to console the parent, and they're having to, and then you'll hear them say, well, you act very mature for your age. And that's a lot of time they'll say you're an old soul. A lot of times that is the case because empaths pretty much grow up fast. They grow up to a point where their childhood is put on ice. Is put on pause. Some of us never even had a real healthy childhood to grow up in our formative years and enjoy childhood as a child should. And so as you become an adult and you meet a narcissist too has met you and been attracted to you for reasons that don't involve physicalities at all. And so they sense something in you that is familiar, and vice versa. It's the familiarities between one another. It's the why empaths attract narcissists and you are attracted to narcissists. So when you do the inner work, the shadow work, you find out about all these traumas, all of this getting along to go along, going along to get along, and you come out a better version than you've ever been in your life. And there are certain things with those weak boundaries before, they're non-existent anymore, because there's no such thing as weak boundaries anymore, because you're in tune with the self. Your consciousness state is at an all-time high. So this is why certain people and friends you cannot remain in connection with, not because of you personally having some beef with them. This is just innate to who you are, awakened and in tune, and have done the shadow work. You will feel so awkward. You will feel so out of place when you're in these circles, even if it's family members. And they'll have a million questions because you will look like something that they are someone they don't recognize. They won't recognize you, even though you go to the barbecue every year. And it will, however, create a hostile environment from those who don't recognize you. And so you will learn to be better alone than you ever were around people. And it won't feel like you're deprived at all. It won't feel like you're doing any disservice to anyone. They will feel your absence. while you're yet standing right in front of them, because you won't be there in the way that they've expected you before. You're not there to prop them up. You're not there to cheerlead for them. You're not there likewise for them to validate you. You've come to a point where the self-validation is there. You know exactly where you stand in the present. And you're being present all the time for the most part, which is not what you were before you did the shadow work. You were not present. You were not present in that moment. You was not, you didn't have a self-state of consciousness of what you were as a person, or who you are as a person. And this may sound very confusing to you guys, but I will ask you to do this. If you continue to study on this shadow work, you will arrive at the same conclusion that I have. It's probably the best way to say it, not to confuse you or to complicate anything. I do encourage you guys to actually desire to go towards this direction in your healing. Again, it's not just to be educated about who narcissists are, because they are who they are. But now, in doing so, you have to find out who you really are, because who you believe you are right now, here and now, even as an awakened empath, you're much more than that. And all the things that you think you are, you're very much none of that. You're very much none of what you think you are. That is the thing that's going to have you blown away. But it's going to be an exchange of sorts. I won't say an equal exchange, but the exchange and the trade-off when you arrive at this point of realizing that you're nothing of what you thought you were. It is going to be liberating to you. So that self, that old self that you thought you were, once you arrived at this awakened state of consciousness, doing the individualization in your isolation and solitude, that shadow work is going to bring you to a point where you realize this is what's been missing. And I didn't even know it was missing. You will become so at one with yourself until the presence you had before as an empath, it will far exceed that. But there will be a lot of hiccups by way of people outside of you, things outside of you, where it pertains to people. Because your energy and your vibration is so elevated to a state where the friends that you once had, they cannot connect with you in any way, shape, or form, because your level of consciousness is not conducive to where they are. And this is not anything like an egotistical superiority and inferiority thing. This is just a conscious state that where you are, that all of us need to be in, but most often, most of us won't, because we're conditioned to settle. And this is what brings a lot of us to points of despair, defeat, and disappointment. Awaken as an empath that's done the inner work, you will see that there's a lot of things that you once desired in what you thought a meaningful way, they will be meaningless. And you will desire things that are wholesome and truly authentic, whatever they may be. Because in the way that you move, in the way that you approach things now, will be in a way that is very healthy. And they will be very parallel to where you are in the self state, because your vibration is in a state where you are able to recognize things sooner rather than later. Because before, the things that you recognized and you kind of signed on to, You no longer will, because your shadow integration, dealing with the shadow, now you see, even though you're a healer, as an empath, a lot of things are not your business to be concerned with or overly concerned with. Your empathy is still there, but your empathy now has been upgraded, if you will, to a point where it doesn't equal into passivity. It doesn't equal into gullibleness. You can see a need now and know, because of your vibration, your conscious state, that that's not even something you need to involve yourself with. That's going to be the stark difference of where you were as an empath before and where you are as an empath that's done that shadow work. And there are so many other different directions and different ways you can talk about this stuff. And again, it's so liberating. It's so liberating to know, and you don't have to overcomplicate it. It's not a lot of big complexities to it, but it is rigorous. It is rigorous, and it's very important. It's very vital to you coming to a point of where this nonsense that we've lived most of our life begins to make sense. So that being said, guys, bless.